All right, let's just jump right in. We see these high earners, right? The ones with the fancy cars, the designer clothes, and we think, man, that's what being rich looks like. But what if I told you that a lot of those habits, the very things that scream, I've made it, are actually giant financial traps? That's what we're digging into today. The 5 habits that make you look rich, but are secretly keeping you poor.
And look, this isn't just a feeling. We've got the numbers to back it up. Get this. A recent survey found that a whopping 62% of people earning over 300 grand a year are struggling with credit card debt. Yeah, I had to read that twice too. It's what some economists are calling the wealth paradox. It's this bizarre situation where a huge income doesn't create security. In fact, it can do the opposite and actually push you deeper into a cycle of debt. So what in the world is going on? Well, it really boils down to two very different ideas. On one hand, you've got what we can call performative wealth. This is all about looking the part. The high-status cars, the fancy zip codes, always having the latest and greatest. But on the other hand, there's actual wealth, and that's the real deal. It's not about what you're spending, it's about what you own, your net worth, your investments, your actual financial freedom. The problem is, all the habits we're going to talk about, they feed the performance while totally starving the reality.
Okay, let's kick it off with habit number 1. And this one is so sneaky because it feels totally natural. It's the automatic lifestyle upgrade. Think about it. You get a raise, a nice bonus, maybe a big promotion. And what's the first thing that happens? Your spending just magically expands to meet or maybe even overshoot that new income. Yep, this is a classic case of something called lifestyle creep. It's where all that awesome extra money that could be going into savings or investments just gets soaked up by other stuff. The slightly nicer apartment, splurging on premium gas, going out for more expensive dinners. Each little thing doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But you add them all up and they completely wipe out the benefit of your raise. You end up feeling just as broke as before, you just have nicer things. And here's the wild part. This isn't just about willpower. Our brains are literally wired for this. It's a psychological thing called hedonic adaptation. You know that amazing rush you get from a new luxury car or that bigger house? It wears off, doesn't it? Our brains are super quick to get used to the new normal. And suddenly that amazing thing is just your life. The excitement is gone, but guess what isn't? That higher monthly payment. Your baseline has just been reset, and now you're on a treadmill, needing an even bigger upgrade to get that same little thrill. And that treadmill leads us straight into habit number 2. This is where we take that internal pressure and pile on a massive external one. The social game of keeping up with the Joneses. Or, as we're about to see, it's often more like trying to lap the Joneses. This is one of the biggest differences between people who look rich and people who are rich. The classic book, The Millionaire Next Door, just nailed this. They found that real millionaires, they just weren't playing that game. They couldn't care less about what their neighbors thought. Their number one goal was financial freedom, not showing off. For them, a paid-off mortgage was the ultimate status symbol, way more than some flashy new SUV in the driveway. And again, this isn't just a theory. We've got cold, hard data on this. Studies have found a direct link between how much you earn compared to your neighbors and how much debt you have. It's crazy. Basically, the more you're the rich one on your block, the higher your credit card balance is likely to be. People are literally going into debt just to signal to the folks next door that they've made it. All right, that brings us to habit number 3. And this one is a really fundamental mix-up about how wealth is actually built. It's the habit of pouring money into liabilities, things that lose value over time, while tricking yourself into thinking they're status symbols or even investments. So let's talk about the ultimate example, the luxury car. Just look at these numbers. They are basically wealth-destroying machines. A BMW 7 Series, it loses over 67% of its value in just 5 years. A Jaguar I-Pace, over 72%. Now look at something like a Honda Civic. It loses a much, much smaller 28%. That luxury car isn't an asset, not even close. It's a huge expense that's just melting like an ice cube in your driveway. But hey, it's not just about cars, right? We've all seen those articles. You know the ones. A Birkin bag is a better investment than the S&P 500. It's a really tempting idea, isn't it? It feels like the perfect way to justify that huge luxury purchase as a smart, savvy financial move. But is it actually true? Well, the reality is a lot messier. First off, unlike stocks, these things are super illiquid. You can't just snap your fingers and turn that bag into cash. Then you've got the costs of storing it properly, insuring it, and the massive risk of counterfeits.
Let's be real, you can't build your retirement plan on a handbag. At best, it's a high-risk gamble, not a real investment strategy. Okay, on to habit number 4. And this one is brutal because it hides right out in the open. It's ignoring the total cost of ownership, especially when it comes to huge purchases like a luxury home. You see that price on the real estate listing? Think of that as just the cover charge. It's just the entry fee to a lifetime of expenses. And trust me, those expenses pile up fast. For a home valued at over $1 million, the average hidden costs every single year are more than $21,000. And that's on top of your mortgage payment. That's just the money you're burning to keep the lights on and the place from falling apart. And it's a huge shock for a lot of new owners. So where does all that cash go? Well, there's a rule of thumb in real estate called the 1% rule. Plan on spending at least 1% of the home's value every year on maintenance. So on a $10 million home, that's 100 grand a year, just for upkeep. And then you have to tack on specialized repairs for all the custom stuff, way higher property taxes, bigger insurance bills, and sometimes even staffing costs. Gardeners, cleaners, security. It's just a constant financial drain. And that brings us to our final habit, number 5. And honestly, this might be the most relatable one of them all. It's that little voice in your head that says, I deserve it. It's the mentality we use to justify spending money we don't really have. This is where your emotions completely hijack your financial brain, and the destination is usually more. So what's actually happening in your brain here is this really destructive loop. It all starts with a bad feeling, right? Stress from your job, boredom, feeling insecure. That feeling triggers an impulse buy. For a minute, you get this little rush, this temporary relief. But then it wears off, and it's replaced by regret and, surprise, even more financial stress, which, of course, just makes you want to buy something else to feel better. It's a vicious cycle that literally rewards you for digging yourself into a deeper and deeper hole. There's this fantastic quote from a behavioral economist, Sarah Newcomb, that just cuts right to the heart of this. She says, are you lonely, bored, insecure, or sad? If those things are happening, shopping won't fix them. It's such a powerful gut check, right? It forces you to ask yourself before you hit that buy now button, am I buying this because I need it or love it? Or am I just trying to slap a Band-Aid on an emotional problem? Because that shopping high, it's not a real solution. Okay, so we've walked through the 5 big traps, the things that make you look wealthy but just create stress. But here's the good news. There is a totally different way to do this. And it's not about depriving yourself of everything fun. It's just about a fundamental shift in your priorities, from looking rich to actually being rich. And this really lays out the 2 paths you can go down. That same research from the Millionaire Next Door actually put names to it. You've got the underaccumulator of wealth. This is the person living that high-status life, spending every dollar they make and then some. But then you have the prodigious accumulator of wealth. This is the person who consistently lives below their means because they value one thing above all else, financial independence. They're just playing a totally different game. So in the end, it really all comes down to one simple but really powerful question you have to ask yourself. It's not about the size of your paycheck, it's about what you do with it. Are you building a truly rich life, one with freedom and security? Or are you just funding a rich-looking lifestyle that's built on a shaky foundation of debt and stress? It's a tough question, but the choice is completely yours.